It might seem kind of odd that such cute little birds spend most of their time in the water, yet can't fly at all. While we tend to think of fish as being well suited to live underwater, and birds as being well suited to life on land, many birds are great swimmers, and some are even better at it than penguins. So why are penguins such fish-like swimmers, and why can't they fly? Let's find out. To answer these questions, we'll start by looking at what makes an animal good at swimming. After all, if we want to know why penguins are good at something, it helps to understand what good at something means. For instance, we typically think of fish as good swimmers because they're fast, maneuverable, and efficient in the water. The basic body plan of most fish helps them accomplish these things. Their streamlined shape, fins, and tails help them move through the water with minimal resistance. Some fish are even more specialized for swimming. Dolphins, for instance, have a dorsal fin that helps stabilize them as they swim, while sharks have powerful tails that propel them forward. Now let's look at penguins. At first glance, they don't really look like they'd be good swimmers. Compared to fish, they have a lot of exposed body parts that could snag on rocks or each other while swimming, like their beaks, feet, legs, elbows, and knees. If your limbs were sticking out everywhere, you probably wouldn't swim very well either. But it turns out that penguins have evolved so that none of these body parts get in the way while they swim. See, those exposed body parts aren't actually exposed. Penguins have evolved to keep these body parts tucked up against their body while they swim. By doing so, they reduce the amount of resistance they encounter as they swim. They also have special adaptations that make them even more streamlined. For instance, their bellies are concave and their backs are convex. This shape is similar to a boat or a dolphin, which is optimized for moving through the water. And unlike most birds, penguins have a solid, round body instead of a flattened chest. This shape also minimizes resistance while they swim. There is one part of their bodies that looks like it might stick out, though, and that's their wings. But those are tucked up tight to their bodies, too, just like their legs and arms. When they swim, their wings paddle back and forth like oars on a boat. So it's clear that penguins have lots of adaptations that make them good swimmers. But that raises the question, why do they have wings in the first place if they always keep them tucked up? Well, you may have noticed that a penguin's wings don't look like wings at all. They're short, stiff, thick, and flat like fish fins. In fact, a penguin's wings are basically just modified arm bones covered in skin and feathers. But even with all these modifications, their wings still have the same basic structure as the wings of birds that can fly. They just aren't structured in a way that would allow them to fly. You see, the longer, thinner wings of flying birds are like oars on a boat. They're narrow, so they catch the wind and move the bird through the air. But this structure isn't very useful for paddling in the water. Also, the bones in a bird's wings are hollow and connected by ligaments and tendons, which makes them light and flexible. This flexibility is good for flying, but it doesn't provide much control over how you swim. The wings of penguins are the opposite. They're short, stiff, and thick, which gives them more control over how they move through the water, but isn't flexible enough for flying. So while their wings are basically modified arms that are great for swimming, they're not wings at all, which means penguins are actually just flightless birds. But since we already know that they can't fly, why don't we just focus on why they're such great swimmers? Well, we already talked about their body shape, but there are other adaptations that make penguins great swimmers too. For instance, their muscles. It takes a lot of energy to swim constantly, especially in cold water, because you need a lot of power to push your body through the water. You also need endurance to swim for long periods of time without getting tired. Penguins have large chest muscles that help them dive deep, and their shoulder muscles are positioned farther back on their bodies, which increases their range of motion and lets them paddle more efficiently. Flying birds don't need these kinds of muscles, but penguins sure do, because even though their wings aren't good for flying, they're great for swimming. But there's another reason that penguins are excellent swimmers. It's the same thing that keeps them from flying. And I'll tell you what it is right after. The thing is, the features that make penguins great swimmers happen to be the same features that prevent them from flying. That thing is their bones. Like most birds, Penguins have bones that are hollow and full of air sacs connected to their lungs. This adaptation helps them be buoyant in the water, but it also makes them lighter, which helps them fly. So it seems that we've been talking about how great penguins are at swimming and how they can't fly using the same features. But that's only half the story. You see, compared to most birds, penguin bones are heavier and denser. Their bones aren't filled with air, which makes them almost 30% heavier than they would be otherwise. And the more massive bones mean that penguins need big, strong muscles to move around. While these heavy bones are good for swimming, they're terrible for flying. Most flying birds weigh less than 2 pounds, but penguins can weigh over 100 pounds. With these heavy bones, penguins simply can't fly. But if it's such a disadvantage, why don't natural selection and evolution change their bones back to lighter bones? Well, it turns out that having heavy bones is also an advantage for swimming. Here's why. To be a good swimmer, you need to be able to keep your body stable in the water. You may know a kid who always flips over when trying to swim on their back. It's hard to stay in one position in the water if you're not heavy enough, and heavy bones help penguins keep their balance. They also help penguins dive deep. Diving deeper means that the water pressure around them increases. Water pressure can be dangerous. It can crush boats and sink submarines, but penguins are built for it. As a penguin dives, the increasing water pressure helps keep their body stable and prevents them from floating back to the surface. And when they pop back up to breathe, the water pressure pushes them out of the water and onto land. It's like a pogo stick. So while penguins' heavy bones make it impossible for them to fly, they also help them swim and dive. Another adaptation that helps penguins dive is their eyes. Unlike many birds, penguins can't see well in the air, but their eyes are optimized for seeing underwater. When they're in the air, their eyes are looking through a medium called air, which slows down how fast light travels. When they're in the water, their eyes are looking through water, which speeds up how fast light travels. So a penguin's eye works like a camera. It focuses light on, but if the speed of light changes, then the camera needs to change its focus in order to see clearly. A penguin's eyes change shape when it goes underwater, allowing them to see clearly in the water. This adaptation also happens quickly, like in a blink of an eye. So it seems that penguins' eyes are also optimized for swimming. So now you know why penguins are such good swimmers. Their wings, bones, and bodies are all adapted for swimming underwater. They're even better at it than some birds. But it's important to remember that they can't fly because of these adaptations too. Penguins are obviously not the only animals that are better at swimming than flying. You can apply everything we talked about today to other flightless birds like ostriches, emus, and kiwis, and you can even apply it to dinosaurs. The ancestors of modern birds were probably small, feathered dinosaurs. Eventually, these dinosaurs gave rise to birds. But over time, some birds evolved smaller wings and bodies and heavier bones so they could swim better in the water. This is the origin of penguins. So while they may look like overgrown chicks, penguins are actually more closely related to albatrosses and petrels than they are to other flightless birds. If you enjoyed learning about penguins, you should check out the series. Each episode dives deep into the science behind everyday phenomena. I'm talking about topics like frozen frogs, supervolcanoes, space photography, and earthquakes. There's something for everyone. Plus, they're fun and engaging. See you next time.